These are the best defenses in Madden 26, and they pretty much all come to us out of the Minnesota Vikings defensive playbook. We were doing some honorable mentions in this breakdown of some things out of the Houston playbook with the double mug specifically, but this can actually be cross applied right into the Vikings playbook because they do have the 3-3 double mug and the 3-3 single mug. We're going to be talking about 3-3 odd, 3-3 cub, dom 1-4-6 a little bit, 4-3 even 6-1, 3-4 odd. Like these are the best defenses in the game. And if you want to get my entire Minnesota Vikings defensive ebook, it's going to be available in our school community. That school community is going to be linked in the description. It's only $10 to become a member. It gets you access to every single thing that I know about Madden and college football to help you win more games. So if you want to sign up for that, that link is in the description down below. 3-4 odd, one of the better defenses in the game that a lot of people really haven't shifted to yet, but this defense is really, really effective, and it's in the Minnesota Vikings playbook. As far as how I like to run the defense as a whole, what we're going to basically be doing here is we're going to turn auto flip off. We're going to disable our motion response, option read key conservative, aggressive pitch key, read and pass key conservative, and then at the bottom here, safeties depths are going to be on close and pinch. Not necessarily have to do that, but I prefer it in this defense. Now, as far as personnel for this, one of the main things you need to make sure you do every single time when running this defense is for the packages at the bottom there, you want to turn that to OLB flip. The reason you want to do that is because it's going to make those outside linebackers actually outside linebackers. For whatever reason, the game kind of stock codes them as defensive linemen. They will be terrible in pass coverage if you try to drop them back. So you need to make sure that is OLB flip is set there. Now, the next thing that you need to do is in your personnel here, just kind of some advice for how to set up your personnel. You want your fastest players on the field to be your outside linebackers in this defense. So for me, that's going to be Nolan Smith, and that's going to be Jihad Campbell. They are very, very important to get on the outside here. So let's see if I guess I got to sub him in a couple times here, but anyway, this guy Jihad Campbell. See if I can I not get him down here for some reason. All right, let's put him over here. Okay. Well, for whatever reason we can't find him, so we'll put another fast dude over here. Zach Bond will be just fine. It's no big deal. You just need speed, acceleration, agility, change of direction. Those are the kind of the most important things. Your best pass rusher, you want to be on the nose, so you want that to be Jalen Carter if you're playing the Eagles or just kind of a sample team here, and then we'll just put two fast-ish guys there, and then I got N'Kobe Dean, and then I'll put I guess I'll put Jihad Campbell up here then. So anyway, OLB flip package, very, very important. You have to have that, and you want to have your faster edge rushers on the outside. So now the next thing that you want to do here is you want to come out in a play. Now, the way that I like to run this defense is I pretty much am always going to have a cover two shell set here. The reason why is because it just gives me the ability to give the same pre-snap look regardless of what formation I'm facing. And honestly, I'm going to pretty much advise you to go ahead and base out a zone with this defense. Now, as far as audibles, I always have this pinch bug 0 in my audibles in case I ever need to get into a man play, ever need to get into just a send 6 good play. This is decent, right? Cover 4 quarters, cover 4 drop. Those are two other plays that I like to have in here. Just again, if I ever need to get into something on the fly, I can get into it. And then Tampa 2, in case I ever just need to get into that. You could also put cover 6 in there. So my base coverage, my base defense basically here is really going to be this cover 6, okay? I'm going to come out in this cover 6 pretty consistently. If you shade underneath, it'll take the match principles away. If you leave it stock, then it will leave the match principles on the play. So as far as the defense is concerned, what you want to do is you want to basically send pressure off of the running back side. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to show blitz. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. The way you want to send pressure on this defense typically is you want to send pressure off of the non-tight end side. Okay, I want to make that very clear. You want to send pressure off of the non-tight end side, okay? So in this case, it's to the running back side, but there's some formations like Waftre up close where the running back will be on the same side as the tight end, okay? So as far as how we want to do this, it's very, very simple, okay? There's really two methods. The first one is the hover method. So if you want to hover, you can click onto this linebacker here. See if it takes me 10 years to get on him. And I'll show you the pass protection. What you see is this guard is targeting my user. So I'm just going to fake blitz down, and you see that I'm going to get pressure off that left side. Okay. That's option one. Now, that option can be negated, and here's how. If they want to untarget your user or slide to the left side. So they untarget my user, and they pick up the blitz. Okay. I like that blitz, though, because if I'm playing somebody that doesn't know what they're doing and they're not untargeting, I can get a send 4 pretty cheaply, right? I can get a send 4 very, very cheaply. Okay. Now, as we start to kind of evolve here, you're going to see why this matters. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to blitz my user just like this. And then on the back side, if I wanted to put that defensive end here, if I wanted to put him into a zone or anything, I could do that and the blitz would still come in. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to kind of use him as a contain. But now let's say that they untarget my user again. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to D-pad switch. So at the snap of the ball, I'm going to hit right on the D-pad. What I normally do is shade underneath, and then, maybe I take the linebacker and put him in a curl flap. Okay. But I'm going to click on to this 3-reg hook. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to hit right on my D-pad as soon as the ball snaps. So the ball snapped, hit right on the D-pad. If they untarget my user, he's going to come in free. Okay. That's an option. You can run the defense. You can run the defense just like that right there. And it's a great way, in my opinion, to use this defense because you're always giving that threat of pressure on that running back side. So what ultimately starts to happen here, and actually let me go back one more time and show this just as a base rush. So just like this, switch stick off, you see the edge pressure come in. Okay. Now, what's going to happen as this game kind of goes on is they're going to say, okay, well, he's only sending pressure off his user side. And this is the beauty of 3-4-odd is that you can send pressure off of either side. So what they'll start to do is they might start to half slide to the left side. Okay. If they give you something like that, where they're half sliding to the left side and you're doing this D-pad method, you'll see here a lot of times pressure will still come in. The only real way for them to counter this blitz is to fully commit to blocking it, either by blocking a running back or by full sliding. Okay. And I'll also show this against empty protection. It's basically exactly the same in terms of our purposes here. You'll see if I send this against empty protection, I'm going to get the pressure. Okay. So you're still going to be able to get the pressure versus empty or base protection. That's why I like 3-4-odd. There's not as much variation there. But anyways, so they have to basically full slide to the right side. So all we're going to do here is what I like to do is mix this blitz concept in. It's a slant my line inside, and then I'm going to blitz this linebacker on the right side. So you see this is what the play art looks like. And then if we wanted to, what we could do is we could hard flat our user. We could do a little cover 3 rotation like this if we wanted to. But here's the beauty of this. Let's say that they don't slide protect. Normally they're not going to target our user because our user, it wouldn't make sense for them to consistently target or untarget our user because we're going to scream at them up the middle with some of our other blitzes. So now they're done kind of untargeting our user. So if we guess wrong, you're still going to get typically that left side pressure just from the hover. Okay. And then if they guess wrong, so let's say they full slide to the right side, well, now, you can send, you really don't even need to send this many people, but you can send this pressure like this, and this linebacker on the right will come in free. Another way to do this, and this is kind of how I like to mix up my 3-4-odd, is there's the sending 2. So if I want to send 2 out of this, what I'll do is I will, and you could also easily just flip the play. If you wanted to do that, you could just flip the play. You see nothing really changes, honestly. We're just going to flip the play here. We're going to spy the DT, and then we're going to drop this D end into probably a hard flat, honestly, or a hook, something like that. And then basically, if they full slide, a lot of times this can come in. If they don't full slide, you're just going to send 2 and you're going to shed. But a lot of times this thing can come in on a full slide. Maybe you have to send the nose tackle. But in general, this is a way that I will I call it just a change up look, right? And again, if they flip, then I'm going to flip. So if they flip, then everything about this defense basically just flips. So you see here, we're now over here. We send the pressure this way, and we're good to go. All right. And then the other thing that I was going to say is the beauty of this is also you have a send 3. So the send 3 here, we're going to flip it. And then we're just going to basically send 3. We can spy the DT or the D end here, whatever you want to do. I'm going to spy the D end. And then if they full slide, you normally will have a little better shot here of being able to come in clean. For some reason, it did not come in clean there. And I'll show you one other thing that we can do as far as like a mix in pressure. So another mix in pressure that you have from 3-4 odd that I think is really, really good is we'll flip this and we'll go like this, and we'll blitz this. We'll send 5 like this. So the reason I like this, again, pretty much solely for a change of pace look. What you could do is kind of move these guys a little bit back into where you want them to be if they end up moving or anything like that. But effectively, right, what we're able to do here is now we're kind of changing the picture just slightly. But, if they're doing any, this pressure is going to come in even if they don't block, right? Even if they don't do any pass protection. If they're full sliding, obviously, this is going to be a great way to kind of mix in. And then I'll also send 4 like this. Every now and then I'll send 4 like this and, just try to get the pressure in that way. So normally I like to blitz off the non-tight end side, but situationally, we could blitz off the tight end side. And it just requires flipping the play. I would say that flipping the play is better than coming out in cover 3. I just think it's better because as you see, there's really nothing that happens. The defensive tackle moves, but if you flip the play at the play call screen, they're not going to know, right, that you're flipping the play. And then the other little thing here is if I drop this DN in a hook and just send 4, typically this blitz will still come in, as you can see right here. So I just think that 3-4 odd is really good. It's going to force them to have to block their halfback, which ultimately in this game is kind of all that you can ask for. And then you still put yourself in a pretty good position to be able to get good sheds regardless of what the offense does. The 4-3 even 6-1 defense has been traditionally one of those defenses that starts out the year okay, and as the year progresses, as you get faster linebackers, and really just as the game kind of evolves throughout the year, the defense always rises to the top throughout the year. It's a symmetrical defense. You're able to get good pressure off the left, good pressure off of the right. It's a phenomenal run defense, and there's so many things that we can do out of this defense. Now, again, this is going to be in a lot of playbooks this year, but a couple playbooks that I really like this in. I love that it's in the Minnesota Vikings playbook. The Patriots probably have the best 4-3 even 6-1, but it's also in a lot of other playbooks as well. I believe it's in the Jags playbook. I know it's in the Chiefs playbook. So this formation in general is in a lot of playbooks this year. And what you want to do for your coaching adjustments when you're running the 4-3 even 6-1, the biggest thing that you need to do is you need to turn auto flip off when running this defense. This defense is best ran completely flipped. The other coach adjustments that I like is I go ahead in this defense and I set my defensive motion response to disabled. I'm going to talk about why this is really effective in the actual breakdown here. I also set my option read key to conservative, my option pitch key to aggressive. My RPO and read and pass key are both going to be on conservative here. And then at the bottom, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my safety depth on close and my safety width on pitch. Now, the way that I like to run the 4-3 even 6-1 is more of a zone-based defense. But one of the biggest things that you want to make sure is at the bottom, sometimes in some playbooks, it just kind of depends, it has this package set to heavy. You just want to simply make sure that this is on the default package. That is really important for this defense. And then as far as like where do you want to put your best players, the most important thing that you can do is put your fastest pass rushers on in that outside linebacker position. That is super important to get these blitzes to be able to come in consistently. That is something that I think is super important in the 4-3 even 6-1. And then from there, you can kind of just simply put your different players wherever you want them to be. Put your best pass rushers, in my opinion, put them on the defensive end position, and then put fast defensive tackles, as we're going to be able to do a lot of different things with them in the defense. Now, as far as play call and shell, I'm pretty much going to do everything out of the cover 4 quarters. If you want to run more of a cover 0 base, what I would just tell you is go ahead and turn that defensive motion response to default. But in general, I think cover 4 quarters is kind of the best way to use this because it's not going to, like, you're going to be okay with this regardless of what you're doing. Another thing that you could do is you could run Sam Blitz 3. And basically what you would want to do with this is you would want to flip the Sam Blitz 3. so that the linebacker that is in the zone is always on the short side of the field. So, for example, here, the wide side of the field here is to the right side. And so, because the wide side of the field is to the right side here, if I was to audible to a like a spread out formation or something like this linebacker generally, if I show blitz my linebackers, he will be in a good proper position. Now I'm going to show you how I normally run it out of cover four, just because it gives us the best, I think, kind of blend of everything. But in general, I'm just going to run this with as a cover four flip, and we're going to get into, kind of how I like to run this defense. There's a lot of different ways to run 6-1, but one of the best tips I can give you is to show blitz your linebackers. It's going to get them in a really, really decent position to be able to do a lot of things. 6-1 is by far and away much better against bunch, wide trail close, kind of these more compressed sets than it is against trips. However, it still can be ran against trips at a very, very high level. Okay. So the way that I like to set this up, the core strategy that I like to use with 6-1 is I like to simply pinch my defensive line. And then from there, I'm normally going to blitz the linebacker opposite of the tight end. So I don't want to really blitz on the tight end side unless I'm trying to send 6. I want to blitz off of the running back side simply because in this game, the tight end ships a lot of outside linebacker type of blitzes. Whereas if we blitz the running back side, we're going to be in a lot better position. And I'm also going to show you kind of the standard pass protection. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward, as this center is going to be responsible for trying to block my user. So essentially all we're going to do is we're going to send 5 like this, and the center is going to block my user here. And you see I'm going to be able to get pressure off of that left-hand side. Now I'll show that a little bit more in depth here. So I'm going to, and this also applies to empty protection as well. So I'm showing base and empty here, but basically as you see, empty, same kind of basic thing. Sometimes empty can be a little crazy, but as you see, we're getting that linebacker to be able to get pressure. Now I'm going to show you another way to get pressure from this with more of a spread out look. If you ever wanted to kind of leave the defense looking like this, what you could do is you could blitz this linebacker. You could go to your stunt menu and pick the left Texas 2-man stunt. You could then QB contain. And what you're going to see here is, as you see, that linebacker is hot off the edge. And when you do that stunt, he's going to do a good job of getting that pressure off of that left-hand side. So you can use that stunt pressure as well. I normally just like to send the base pressure just because I feel like it's a little bit more consistent. And in general, just pinching the D-line, to me, I think it just makes the defense a little bit better. You can also slant the defensive line inside. And then if you need to, you can spread these linebackers out. So as you see here, this center is pretty much going to just be dedicated to my user no matter what. And you see that that's going to give us really clean pressure off of that left-hand side. One of the other things that you can do with the 4-3 even 6-1 defense is you can go ahead and you can actually send the pressure. Let me show that here. So what I can do is I can send the pressure and I can drop this guy on the right into whatever coverage assignment I want. So like if I want to put a little bit more coverage on the field and just send 4, this send 4 is still pretty consistent at being able to get some decent pressure off of that left-hand side as well. So you have those different options within, how you want to do this. Now, the big thing that's going to happen is they're going to eventually untarget your user defender. And so if they do that, what that's going to basically mean is they're going to untarget your user defender. And as you see here, we're going to set that same exact defense up where we're sending this pressure off of this left side. And what you're going to see is pressure still able to come in. But what will also happen is eventually they're going to pair that with a slide protect. So if they pair that with a slide protect, what's nice about 6-1, you can't really slide protect 6-1 because there's 2 blitz threats on both sides. So what you're able to do here is this is where situationally, right, we would send this right side. If we ever started to notice that this left side pressure is just not working for whatever reason, then we would do something like this off of the right side even and make it look exactly like that. But because they're slide protecting, as you see, that linebacker's left completely hot, and you're going to be able to get that pressure at the quarterback. So that's one of the best ways to kind of use this to make 6-1 effectively an unslidable formation. It's not very easy to protect when you're slide protecting. You're pretty much, this is the whole purpose of the defense, by the way, to get them to block somebody. And then once they start to block somebody, we can do some cool things in this formation. One of them is the left Tom two-man stunt here. What I like to do is send this left Tom two-man stunt like this. And then what I can essentially do is basically just kind of run to the middle. And, again, just depending on how they kind of want to pick this up, a lot of times that Tom stunt will loop through and it's going to get good pressure. It's really helpful to have these Tom stunts whenever they start to block people. So if they're, for example, if they're sliding one way, they're blocking another way, doing things like that, that's where these Tom stunts become super handy because, the protection could get messed up and the Tom stunt could go crazy within the defense. Another cool feature about 6-1 is you can basically pass commit it every single time because it's such a good run defense, you don't really need to stop the run. Now, as you see that linebacker go outside there, but if I show blitz my linebackers, generally the linebacker is going to come back inside here, and you're now going to be able to get pressure. We'll see if we can show you a good defense here. And that was a blocked running back. The blocked running back will block the send 5. But in general, like in the way this game plays, honestly, I'm kind of willing to live with that. Now, the big thing that I wanted to just quickly hit here is this audible into trips tight end. So if they do audible into trips, which is very popular in this year's game, if they do audible over here, you're going to see that if you show blitz your linebackers, they don't really move in this cover 4 defense. And so what I like to do here is essentially blitz off of this trip side. So effectively it would look something right like this, where we're going to send this pressure off the left-hand side. And then normally what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a ton of coverage over here like so. And then my lurk is going to be over here to the right-hand side. So you see it looks something like this. If you look at the user responsibility, as long as I run down at the center, I get good pressure and I'm able to kind of stay in a pretty decent style of defense. So the 4-3 even 6-1 defense, one of the better defenses in the game, and it gives you the capability to be able to adjust a lot of things, especially if you just do that show blitzing of the linebackers. It kind of changes everything about how this defense plays, and it makes it significantly more effective, in my opinion, and it's going to be much harder to consistently pick up. The nickel 3-3-5 odd defense in the Minnesota defensive playbook is by far and away one of the better defenses in all of Madden 26. And I'm going to break down exactly how you want to be running this defense. Starting in your coach adjustments, what you want to do is you want to run this defense with auto flip defensive play call off, defensive motion response disabled, option read key on conservative, option pitch key on aggressive, RPO read key on conservative, RPO pass key on conservative, and then here at the bottom, you want to put your safety depths on close and your safety width on pinch. Now from there, you want to actually use a specific package in the nickel 3-3 odd defense to get the best adjustments possible. That package that you want to be utilizing is going to be the defensive in swap package. Now what you're going to need to do is once you set this package, you are going to want to go ahead and sub in your players wherever you want them to be on your screen. My main recommendation for this is you want to put your fastest defensive linebacker or defensive end on this outside linebacker position. And then from there, it's pretty much just put fast players in, put your best players where you want them. I put your best like shedder, the guy that can block shed the best, probably at the defensive tackle position. Once you've made those substitutions, now what you want to do is you want to go ahead and pick the plays that you want to use. Now, basically for this defense, I think to be the most effective it can possibly be, what I like to suggest is to go ahead and take your shell feature here and turn this to a cover 2 shell. That way it's going to look exactly the same every single time you come out. You're not going to have to really deal with any types of variations in terms of the coverage. And one of the biggest tips for defense this year is you really don't want to be audibling at the line of scrimmage if you can help it. You want to come out in the play and basically make your adjustments from there. That being said, I'm going to be showing you 2 different defenses within this, maybe even a third if we have a little bit extra time. And we're going to go ahead and walk through kind of the core tenets of this defense. If you literally don't learn anything other than the core things that I'm about to show you, your 3-3 odd is going to be really good. So what we're going to first start out with is kind of our base blitz, and this is best for going up against a formation such as a bunch X nasty or a Y off trio close, any kind of formation where there's 3 wide receivers on one side and a running back on the other side, this blitz is going to apply to. So the play that we're going to be using for this is the Hot Blitz 3. One of the reasons that I like the Hot Blitz 3 is because it has a blitzing linebacker in a slot corner. It is going to allow for a little bit of a symmetry in terms of how your play is going to align. So I love to base out of the Hot Blitz 3. Now, what you're going to do here as far as a setup goes is all you need to do, and I forgot the Bunch X Nasty sometimes does mess up a little bit. So what I like to actually do is actually not utilize a shell. So as you can see here, I have everything on default. I do believe that's the best way to run this defense in general. I'll show you a use case for the shell later on, but for now, let's go ahead and just leave the shell on default. So what we're going to be doing is coming out into play Hot Blitz 3, and we're just going to come out in it as is. And the main adjustment that we want to make to this defense is we're just going to show blitz our linebackers, and that is pretty much going to set up the blitz itself. Now, as far as how we want to use her on this play, what I like to do is go ahead and take this linebacker on the right-hand side here, put him in whatever coverage assignment you want, and you can basically play defense like this. One of my favorite things to do is scissor the left side to prevent any kind of quick throws. So we might do something like this right here, or just a basic cover 2. I love to run a basic cover 2 as well. But essentially what you're going to see here is you're going to see us be able to get good quality pressure off of that side. Now, if for whatever reason the pressure doesn't come in immediately, the other thing that you can do here is go ahead and QB contain. This QB contain will also help with the rollouts, and what you'll see is it will make that slot corner pressure just a little bit better. Another big tip that I have for you, especially if you're playing a formation such as like Y off trio close or anything like this, one of the things that you can do that I think is very, very helpful would be to go ahead and take this slot corner and actually just walk him off the edge like this. It's going to make the blitz come in a little bit faster, and you're still going to be able to get good coverage on the play. As you can see, we're pretty much set up, and you see how much faster that blitz comes in that situation. So that's how I like to run the hot blitz. One of the major things that can occur when running this defense is basically that they can slide protect to the side of the pressure. So what that would basically look like here is if we set this blitz up like this, they might do a slide protection where they're going to say, I'm going to slide to the left, and then that way it's going to make it so that, I might be able to pick up that pressure. I'll give you a little bit better of an example here. But essentially, if they were to do something like that, then what you're going to want to do is send the alternate blitz, which I'm going to show in just 1 minute. But as you can see here, if they set up a slide pro, sometimes this can pick it up. It doesn't always pick it up, and honestly, most of the times it's not going to. But just wanted you to be aware that they can slide protect, and it can certainly change things a little bit in terms of the linebacker blitzing aspect. Now, what we're going to be able to do is in our next variation of this pressure, I'm going to show you, kind of one of my favorite pressures for 2 different types of situations. Number 1, it's really good for like a flipped bunch. And number 2, it's really good if they, for whatever reason, start to block your blitz. So this is where I like to go to the play Hot Blitz Bail. And the big key when running Hot Blitz Bail is to use some type of shell, whether it's a cover 4, cover 2, cover 6 shell. You want to be using some type of shell. And the main thing that you need to do when you do this is you need to reset your play. And when you do that, you want to go ahead and show blitz. So you see, this is what the defense looks like. And all it does is it just brings the safety into a little bit better of alignment here. And then you have this A-gap blitz angle now on your user. So the reason that this A-gap blitz angle is effective, especially if it was on my user, is because let's say they give us a look like this, where we kind of need more coverage to the left-hand side. Well, we can send this blitz right here. And what's nice about this blitz is if they untarget your user, he'll actually go directly in for pressure. So what you want to do is you just want to create a kind of similar coverage to what we just showed you here. And now you see I have this one hook curl that's going to kind of float over the middle of the field. So what I want to do is instead of trying to rush in with my user, I'm going to let the game basically run my user down, and I'm going to hit left on the D-pad at the snap of the ball. And what that's going to do is it's going to switch stick me onto either the flat defender or the hook curl that is over the middle of the field. It's one of the best strategies, in my opinion, for getting consistent pressure. So again, you're just going to reset your play. That's going to get that guy to go over there, and then you're going to basically go ahead and set up your coverage. Now I want to show the same exact principle against a formation that you might not, that's not bunch X nasty. So something like a Y off trio close, and we'll go over, basically the same thing. And as you see, when it's not bunch X nasty, it's going to line up a little bit better for you. So again, it's kind of an alignment bug for bunch X nasty. But anywho, if I want to send pressure like this, right, this pressure can still come in. And again, if they untarget my user, which I forgot to show that, if they untarget my user here, then what's going to happen is the user is just going to basically come right in the middle, and he's going to get pressure up the A gap. So in my opinion, those are two of the better blitzing concepts that you can actually utilize from the 3-3 odd formation. Now, another thing that you can do, let me actually change the package, see if that messes anything up here. Another thing that you can do from that cover 2 shell is you can utilize the LB cross 3 show 2. And what you're going to see here is kind of that same idea, right? Reset your play, go ahead and show blitz your linebackers, and you see it kind of gives us the proper alignment. Now, what we're able to do from this is really, really good, especially if they start to do different types of pass protection. I primarily just simply use this as a mix-up blitz. But what I like to do is I'm going to stand a little bit more in between the guard and the tackle, and I'm just going to simply send 4. And what you're going to see here, a lot of the times that happens is this guy can actually loop or cross through on that pressure. And that's just a simple mix-in blitz that we'll go to every now and then. It's not a crazy popular play call for me, but it is something we do want to at least be aware of that we have in this formation. I also like to slant my D line like that, so you get a little bit more of a crossfire animation. But in general, that's one way to run it. Another way to run this blitz is to go ahead and show blitz. And then basically what you do is you're going to show blitz your whole team, and then you're going to reset your linebackers on the D-pad there. And this will kind of create more of a traditional loop blitz. As you can see, it's just sometimes you want to be able to change the pressure, and that is one of the ways in which we can do that. Now, another thing that we can do out of this nickel 3-3 odd defense is utilize a cover 4 or cover 9 type of defense. Basically, what this is going to mean here is we're going to show blitz. We're going to bring our user over in front of this guard. We're going to stand right here, and we're just going to hit the guard. And basically what that does is, as you see, it gets this defensive end to come in free. It's another way to kind of mix in, but in general, those are the best ways to run the 3-3 odd defense. The nickel 3-3 cub defense in the Minnesota Vikings defensive playbook is a really effective defense in Madden 26. I'm going to be breaking down kind of the best ways to utilize this defense, run this defense, and kind of show you like how the defense functions. Now, what you want to do with the nickel 3-3 cub in general is you actually want to have a specific set of coaching adjustments. So what we're going to do for coaching adjustments is you're going to have auto flip defensive play call on, you're going to have defensive motion response on default, option on conservative, option pitch key on aggressive, RPO read key on conservative, RPO pass key on conservative. And then at the bottom here, you can go ahead and put your safety depth on close and your safety width on pinch for this defense. Another big thing that you want to do in the 3-3 cub is there is a specific package that you want to use. If you do not utilize this package, it will change your adjustments and it will just make the defense significantly worse. So what I would recommend is that you take this package right here and you're going to use this OLB flip package. Now, when you do that, you're going to need to go ahead and sub in players exactly where you want them. The biggest key to this whole thing is make sure that you are subbing in your fastest blitzers on these outside linebacker positions. These are the guys that we need to be able to get pressure with. And then from there, you can kind of set up your lineup however you would like to, obviously prioritizing speed. So once your lineup is set up, what you want to do is in the 3-3 cub menu, my recommendation is to go ahead and take this shell feature and turn that to a cover 2 shell. That is going to make sure that every single defense is going to look identical whenever you're running this defense. And there's a couple of different defenses that you can use with this. I think in general, kind of the best defense that I would say you want to be in is either this Mike Blitz 0, the cover 4 show 2, or the Sam Will Blitz 3. Because I personally prefer to play more of a zone-based defense on the back end, I'm going to be showing these examples from the Samuel Blitz 3, but they generally are going to cross apply to both the Mike Blitz 0 and even the Cover 4 Show 2 if you want to blitz the linebackers on your own. Now, what makes the 3-3 Cub defense, I think, super effective is there are some really cool ways to get the pressure to come in. Basically, what we're going to do, the first way that I personally like to run the defense is through this little setup right here. All we're going to do is we're going to blitz our user, and we're going to stand. If you take a look at the pass protection here, notice that if I stand like more out here, it's not necessarily going to help me. I want to be kind of in between the tackle, or I want to be in between like the offensive guard and the offensive center on this side. What this is going to allow me to do is it's going to allow me to trigger a pressure off of the left side. Now, I want to be very, very clear. In my personal opinion, from testing this defense, one of the easiest things they can do to block your blitz is to chip your blitzer. So what that basically means is that if the tight end goes on a route, the tight end has a chance to chip the linebacker on his side. So as my base blitz, what I like to do is I like to blitz off the non-tight end side. So for example, let's say that they went to this Y off trio close, right? Then I would still want to blitz off of this left side, even though the running back is on the other side. As you can see here, it still is set up well for me to get pressure. Now, at its core, what you want to do here when you blitz your user is you want to drop this linebacker into a vertical hook. I normally am going to shade that underneath and then create a coverage that looks something like this. The reason that this is going to be so good, and you can go ahead and feel free to contain as well, the reason this is going to be so good is I'm going to let the game kind of blitz my user, and then I'm going to hit right on the D-pad, and it's going to switch stick me onto the vert hook. So what you're going to see, I'm not touching any buttons. I'm going to let the game automatically blitz my user, and then when it does, I'm going to switch stick to this guy, and as you can see, we're able to get very, very quick pressure if they're sending 5 out into the pattern. The whole thing about defense in Madden 26 is that you want to be able to make your opponent have to get the ball out quickly when they send 5 out. Because it's such a bad blitzing game in general this year, most opponents are basically going to be sending 5 out consistently. And then if they ever do block a running back, no sweat off your back because you're only really sending 4 or 5 depending on how you're setting this up. Now, the next thing that I wanted to show you about this is one of the easiest and automatic steps that your opponent is going to take is they are going to untarget your user defender because obviously they're trying to essentially make you pay for hovering with your user over this position. Well, if they do that, the problem for them is because you're blitzing your user and because you are going to be switch sticking off of him, what essentially is going to happen is this blitzer can come basically right up the middle and he can get instant pressure on the quarterback, right? Another way that you could basically accomplish the same thing would be to get your line to slant out a little bit more or slant them to the right or whatever. So as you see, I'm getting a little bit more of an A-gap type blitz angle from my linebacker. I think ultimately, basically what you need to understand is that once they start to realize that because, they're untargeting you and they're getting, instantly pressured up the middle, they're probably going to stop that, right? They're probably going to stop untargeting your user. And so when they do stop untargeting your user, you can kind of go back to business as usual. Or if you're playing more of a beginner player, they're not going to know to untarget your user. And so because of that, that also bodes well for your pressure. So again, at its basic core here, we just want to simply stand in this gap, and we want to get pressure off of this edge just like this. Now, one other big tip that I wanted to break down for you, and I will sneak this blitzing concept in if I'm running the 3-3 Cub defense. What I'm going to do is I'm going to QB contain. I'm going to still stand right here with my user. I'm going to put that linebacker in a vert hook, shade underneath, and then I'm going to set up my coverage. And basically what I'm going to do is if you take a look at this offensive line logic, they're still going to basically try to block my user. So when they try to block my user here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to send 4. And as you can see, if they send 5 out, I can send 4 and basically get edge pressure, provided that they're not doing any type of pass protection to be able to make this defense worse. Therefore, what are they going to naturally do as a result? Because they can't really untarget your user, because if they do that, you have a chance to come right up the middle. Another thing that you can also get here, boys, is if let's say you're sending 4, let's say you're doing that send 4. Let me actually set the pass pro up. Let's say you're doing that send 4, right? And they do untarget your user. What you can easily do is just run in and get the sack. So if you see that, you can just run in and go get the sack yourself and basically user rush them. Those are a couple different ways to use this defense. But ultimately, what happens is they're going to eventually begin to slide protect to the side that they are anticipating that you are blitzing them. So, for example, they're going to half slide to the left because you're blitzing off of the left. And if you take a look here at the pass protection, you're going to notice that that is going to serve them well. But the other big thing here is you have the opportunity to send pressure off of the opposite side. But as you can see, if they half slide left, that's one of the best ways in which they can get pressure or they can block your blitz. So what I like to do in that situation is I like to go to a Texas style stunt. It looks a little wonky, but in general, this Texas stunt can go crazy against the slide protect. As you see, glitchy disengages and all kinds of stuff like that when they are slide protecting. Another way to take advantage of the slide protection, it kind of just depends a little bit on how they're truly going to like block your blitz. As you can see here, it's like pretty good, right? What I would do is go ahead and spread the linebackers out. And then as you can see here, you see how your user's untargeted? That's where we go back to kind of that situation where if we're blitzing our user, then a lot of times what'll happen is even off a slide protect, this blitz will still come in, as you can see right there. So what they ultimately are kind of left to do is they're left to essentially full slide. So if they full slide their defense to the left, now as you can see, they're basically hot off the right side. So what I will do is every now and then I will do just a traditional send 5 with hard flats, get really aggressive here. And the reason for that is just because in the situation where they are doing a slide protect, you can have, this guy come in completely clean off of that left side. It's just a great kind of mix-in blitz. I don't call that a ton, but I do call that as a mix-in. And then the other thing that I think is really cool about this defense in particular is the fact that you can send 3, just like this right here, just a basic send 3. And this defensive tackle, a lot of times it's just going to get a really nice shed animation directly up the middle. So you're able to get good pressure sending 4, sending 3, and sending 5 out of the 3-3 cup. This is going to be the base blitz for the nickel double mug defense in Madden 26. This is going to be, you can pretty much do this out of any play in the formation. As you can see on the screen here, I have a cover 2 shell set, and I personally like to do this out of this play, nickel dog 3 buzz. The reason I like to do it out of nickel dog 3 buzz is because my alignment is going to be really, really consistent within this formation. So what we're going to do for the defense is we're just going to show blitz, and what you're going to see is that's going to give us a pretty favorable alignment within our formation. We're going to slant our defensive line down just like this, and we already have our linebackers blitz, so we don't need to blitz them. We do need to coverage this blitzing slot corner, so I'm just going to put him in a flat, and then you can really do whatever you want from a coverage perspective within this defense, but essentially what we're going to do is we're going to use her either one of these linebackers. It does not matter to me really who you use her. My 2 cents is when you want to use her, the linebacker opposite of the side that you want the blitz to come in on. So if I want the blitz to come in on the left side, then I would want to use her this right of screen linebacker. If I want the linebacker or the blitz to come in on the right of the side, then I would want to use her the left of screen linebacker. So as you see here, I'm going to use her this right of screen linebacker. Now here's the big tip with this, okay? Some people like to move him like directly over the center like that. To me, that is a little bit too complex. I think it gives you too much of a tell. What I would prefer you do is move him just a little bit. You don't need to move him directly over the center. I would put him like right into this gap right here. The reason being is if I pull up this pass protection menu, you're going to see that it's now going to make that defensive end on the left side a hot read for the quarterback, meaning that he's going to come in when we send pressure. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this backside defensive end and we're going to put him into a vert hook. And then at the snap of the ball, I'm going to hit right on the D-pad, and that's going to switch stick me onto the vert hook, and I'm just going to cover the middle of the field. We could do something like this from a coverage adjustment perspective. But what you'll see here, switch stick right there. It's an easy switch stick because he's right there for you to switch stick onto him. And as you can see, we're going to get pressure off of the edge. So what you see basically happening here is our user is going to be the kind of key to triggering this pressure. As you see right here, I almost got the user to come in as well, but I get this really clean pressure off of the left side. Now, you can get this pressure if you want to get really aggressive and you're not too worried about quarterback contain. what you can do is you can send 4. So if I want to send 4, I'm just going to take the defensive tackle on the right, put him in a yellow. I'm going to put the D in a flat, and then I can put my slot corner and whatever. So as you see, I'm kind of got a lot of zones going over there. And then if I want to play cover 2 to the backside, I certainly can do that. Now, again, this is where my user is stock, and I want to show you the pass protection. You're going to see that if I don't move my user, this blitz is not going to come in. As you see, it doesn't really come in. My user kind of comes in, but it doesn't really come in, okay? So what I want you to do, like I said, is I want you to actually move the user just one little step to the left. It's just a very subtle thing. But what you're going to see is by moving him here, that center is now targeting my user. And then what you're going to see is, again, I'm going to switch to the right, and you're going to see that this 4-man pressure comes in free if they send 5 receivers out on a pattern. Now, what they're going to do naturally is, if you're doing this, they are going to say, okay, well, your user is hovering over the gap, so I'm just going to untarget the user. But remember, we're using the D-pad switch stick method. So because we're using this D-pad switch method, that means that my user is a blitz threat here, because he's actually technically blitzing, because I'm going to switch stick to whoever. I normally try to target the yellow zone, okay? So what you're going to see is they untarget my user. As you can see, I'm going to switch stick to this D tackle, and you see my user is able to come in through the A-gap for immediate pressure on the quarterback. So they can't really untarget me. The only thing they can realistically do is they can slide protect. Now, what typically this means, if they're going to slide protect, is normally if they do a half slide, I will say some people will try a half slide. So if they half slide to the left side, as you see, it leaves my user unblocked. If I blitz this D tackle here and I send 5 like this, a lot of times this guy will come in free. So again, I'm going to do the half slide here, and you see my user. Sometimes he comes in free, sometimes he gets picked up. It's a little bit of a 50-50 thing. Ultimately, if they really, really want to sit with that, they can. But this next tip is going to kind of counter that. So if they half slide to the right side, what I'm going to do is send pressure. I'm going to basically kind of bluff it, and I'm going to send 4 in a little bit of a different way. So what I'll do is I'll send 4 like this, for example. And now you're going to see that we're kind of able to kind of tweak this pressure. So if you take a look at how the O-line picks this up, right, my user is left untargeted. I'm going to send both linebackers here, and you see my user can come in free. This is, again, kind of a specific situation, but what I'm trying to get at here is this little change up, this variation of the send 4 is really helpful for when they start to pick up the blitz. Another variation of the send 4 that's really helpful, and what they'll ultimately start to do often, is they will full slide you to the left side. And when they start to full slide, this is really easy at this point. All we're going to do is slant our line down. And then what I like to do here is basically just send these 3 guys off the right. You don't even have to send this guy. You could send this D end if you want to contain here. You don't have to, but basically it just comes down to, like, I'm just going to send 4. So I'll zone these 2 linebackers out, and we'll just send 4 just like this. And you'll see here that this guy comes in free when they start to over slide protect, right? If they did the same, the same thing's going to happen if they full slide to the left. So if they full slide to the left side or to the right side, either way, it doesn't matter. Whatever side they full slide to, the pressure's coming in, okay? You can't, this is what makes double mug good, is it's kind of to a degree of symmetrical pressure. You can't really full slide it. Like, you could full slide it situationally, but you really can't full slide this consistently because there's so many ways to get pressure out of double mug. And so you see here, like, even this little base send 4, sometimes this DN will come in free, by the way. Just sometimes he just comes in free. So the whole point in this game is to try to get them to block a running back defensively. If you could get them to block a running back, you're doing something right on defense, in my opinion. And what I like about this, is this little send 5 right here. If you want to contain it, you'll get this contain on the outside guy here. You could do that. But this switch stick's so good. And then as you see, randomly, your user can just come in free through the middle of the field, middle of the defense. So now let's say that they flip their bunch. So let's say, for example, that your opponent is a what I call a flipper, right? They're going to flip. They're going to come out short side, always flip wide side. What I want you to do is I want you to flip your play, show blitz just like that, and then you're just going to slant your D-line inside. And again, I'm always going to pretty much always going to user this guy on the left side because it gives me the best chance to get consistent pressure. So you see here, we'll just do our adjustments. Again, you can contain, or you could make this guy like a spy. The spy is really good, and then your user's on a contain, woohoo. But basically, what you see here is this is going to trigger this off the side, and normally this will come in a little cleaner than it did right there. And I'll show that one more time here. So again, if they flip, you flip. Also notice the slot corner does do a decent job of traveling against some formations, so you could just leave him there because he'll travel. But basically, right, we'll send 5 this time. But effectively, you see, clean pressure off that side. You just have a lot of answers. Now, what if the running back and the tight end are both on the same side? So let's say you're playing like a trips tight end or something like that. And, well, actually, you know, really a standard one is actually this bunch tight end. Let me see if I can actually find it. It's taking me a little bit here. We'll take a look at like bunch tight end here. So pretty popular deal. So how would I defend something like this, right? Well, first, for starters, you're going to need to flip. You're going to slant your line inside. Again, I want you to quickly peek here. Because the tight end's on the right side, I would prefer to blitz off the left side. So what you're going to see here is I'm going to use this guy in this specific instance. And again, I'm going to move him just a step or so, okay? From there, that's going to trigger the blitz to come in. And then we're just going to play, you know, pretty standard coverage here. Play a little cover 2 here on the right side. However you want to get to it, you can man this guy up. Like man this guy up. And then you could hard flat this guy and vert hook the D end, however you want to do it. But the bottom line is what you're going to see here is pressure off of that left side pretty quick, and you're able to play pretty decent defense as a result of that. So that's how I would handle a formation like that. Or another example would be doubles flex, running back tight end on the same side. I would prefer you just blitz opposite of the tight end. I basically just don't ever want you to blitz on the tight end side. Make it real simple, right? When you blitz and there's a tight end there, there's so many inconsistencies that come with tight end side blitzing in this game. If we can help it, we just don't want to even really worry about that. And you see, this is really set up well to defend a doubles type formation. We get pretty good alignment here, and you're just going to switch stick to this guy. And as you see, that pressure is going to come in. And then, you know, when they start to adjust to that, you can mix in some of the other blitzes that I was showing you. And really, ultimately, when they start to full slide, it doesn't really matter where they full slide to. You can just send 4 out of double mug. Heck, you can just send 2, by the way, if you wanted to. So, like, again, one of my standard things that I like to do is I'll send pressure opposite of my user side. So I'm anticipating that they're going to slide protect. So they full slide to the left to stop that. I'm just going to send 2 people off this right-hand side here. And what happens a lot of times is because he's so fast, he'll come in completely free. This is what allows these send 2s, these send 3s to become really, really good. And then when they block their running back, normally what that means is the running back's going to block the blitzing linebackers. So what I'll typically do if I'm ever facing a ton of blocked running back, I'll just take the defensive ends and zone them out, and I'll just send 4 like this. I know it looks a little weird here, but I do think this is pretty good because one of these linebackers gets a one-on-one on the running back, and that's going to be the worst blocker on the field. So you'll get pretty good sheds when you do something like that. In general, these are the core mechanics into how to run the double mug defense in Madden 26. Down 146, post patch in Madden 26. So here's how we're going to run this defense. What we're going to do here is we're going to go to our coach adjustments. We're going to go auto flip off. We're going to go defensive motion response disabled. Option read key conservative, pitch key aggressive. Read key and pass key are going to be on conservative. And then safeties are going to be on close and pinch. Now, the way that we're going to run this is you want to make sure, personnel-wise, that you have a good defensive tackle, and then you want your best pass rushers on the outside. So whoever your best pass rushers are, you want them to be on your outside. You do want safeties at linebacker for this. The better change of direction, the better the blitz will be. And this is what I call a timer blitz. This is not 100% out of 100% of the time going to work, but when it works, it is really, really, really good. All right, so this is the cross 3 fire, and what we're going to do is we're going to blitz right to left because we want to blitz the linebacker that is on the 3 rec defender side. So we're going to user this linebacker, and we're going to blitz this linebacker here. And basically, the secret to this defense is to slant your defensive line to the right. When you slant your defensive line to the right, it changes the targeting of the guard. And then I'm going to stand about right here, and what you're going to see is a lot of times this thing will loop through, and even if the pressure does not come in, it's a very uncomfortable defense to play. You're going to get good sheds on the outside, And overall, I just think this is a very, very good defense. And you'll see if we run it a couple times, eventually either the D tackle will kind of glitch through or the outside guy will come in. Now, I'm also running what I would consider to be the best way to block this blitz, which is base protection. You want to take a little step here to the outside. A lot of times that guard will go to the inside. That's kind of the idea. Another thing that you can do to kind of help this blitz is to go ahead and pinch your D line like this. We'll see if we can get that guard to take a step. You see there, we get that guard to take a step inside. When that guard takes the step inside, that's when you know the blitz is going to work, all right? When that guard takes a little step to the inside, it changes everything about this defense. When the guard stays out wide like that, it's easier for him to pick it up. However, the defensive tackle honestly has a little bit better of a chance of coming in. So now I'm going to show you empty protection here. And you're going to see that it's a little better against empty protection. You see here, guard kind of takes that full step. The D tackle comes in a lot more on empty protection. But in general, this is just a timer blitz. Obviously, you want to mix in like sending 3 and sending 2 out of this. Typically just sending 3, honestly. Send 2 is not amazing out of 146 and dollar, but this B gap is pretty decent pressure. Like I said, it's not 100%. If you want to make the pressure a little bit better, what you can do is just send a corner. So if you send the corner here, a lot of times this guy will come in pretty clean there. One of them will. But at the end of the day, the main reason you're calling this is because you have a symmetrical formation that you can do almost anything you want out of the coverage. And that's really what makes the defense go, is the coverage, the combination of the coverage, and then the timer that you are ultimately going to be putting your opponent on. Now, what I'll do from time to time is, let's say I want to send it left to right. I'll just kind of creep on this guy right here, and we'll send it left to right. I'll show you also another way to send it left to right. But I do think it's better to the right side, but you see there that DT kind of glitches through. But I think the best way to kind of, I want to mix in a send right pressure. What I would do is I would flip the play in the play call screen. So it'd be crossy fire, flip it. And then now what you see here is I get a better blitz angle this way. And then I would still slant my line opposite. The slanting of the line opposite is really helpful for this blitz. It really helps with that D tackle kind of glitching through, which is the idea. So those are a couple of different ways. If I ever wanted to send more than 4, or if I ever wanted to kind of really try to push a little bit more pressure on them, I would go to this play. You could really do it out of almost anything, but really Tampa 2 or overload 3 seam. We'll do overload 3 seam here. And all we're going to do is we're just going to basically send it. And you see a lot of times you're going to get, easy pressure off that side. Not really a better way to do it, I would say. Against empty protection, if they were to block this in empty protection, a lot of times this would come through the middle. But if I ever want to mix something in like that, I can. Another thing you can do with overload 3 seam is you can crash your D line opposite, and then you can send for up an A gap loop angle. You see there's that A gap loop angle, kind of came in a little bit better. So it just kind of depends. I would just mix in a lot of this stuff. Ultimately, this defense is not about getting instant pressure. It's about playing good coverage. That's really the key to this defense. So just keep that in mind as you're playing it. You don't really have to get instant pressure, but if you get that a couple times a game, you're going to be able to get more stops out of the 146. If you're looking to play more coverage, bend but don't break style, the Dime 2-3 Sam out of the Minnesota playbook is for you. It's a very, very good defense, and it's very similar to Dollar and 146, but it just gives a little bit of a different blitzing concept. So what you want to do with your personnel here is you just want to make sure that your best pass rushers are in the game. Specifically, your best one be a defensive tackle. Like, you just want to make sure your best pass rushers are on the field. And then you want to make sure that at these safety positions that you have good change of direction safeties at that position. You do not want linebackers in that spot because they're not going to loop as well. Okay. From a coaching and adjustment perspective, you want to have your auto flip defensive play call off, your defensive motion response on disabled, your option read key on conservative, option pitch key on aggressive, RPO read key and RPO pass key, both are going to be on conservative. And then at the bottom here, you're going to want your safeties on close and pinch. That is actually really important when talking about this defense. If you don't put them on close and pinch, the safeties line up super, super far back, in my opinion. Okay, So as far as the main defense that we're going to be using for this, the main one that we're going to be adjusting out of is this play here, strong safety zone blitz. Strong safety zone blitz is the play that you want to be calling here, and we're going to show you how to run it. So the best way to run this defense, and do not expect this blitz to come in every single time. It is actually a very inconsistent blitz. The main reason you're doing this is because you're trying to put your opponent on a timer with this defense, and it gives you incredible coverage. You have a symmetrical formation, you have slot corners all over the field. There's so many ways to adjust out behind this, and you can literally just go crazy with your adjustments with switch stick. This is a very switch stick optimized defense, okay? So what we're gonna do as far as how we're gonna actually run it is we're gonna put this safety on the right-hand side here. We're gonna put him into a hook curl. We're then going to shade our coverage underneath, and we're gonna slant our defensive line here to the right. This is kind of the base coverage shell that you would use out of this. What I will typically do is kind of hover in this general area of the field. And a lot of times what you'll see is at the snap of the ball, this guy can loop right over the middle just like that. I believe that this is the best A-gap loop in the entire game. I actually believe it's a little bit better than Dollar specifically. For whatever reason, the alignment of this formation, I just find that this blitz, it just comes in more. I don't know why. It just comes in more consistently, in my opinion. There you see it's trying to come in again. Basically, here's what I want you to know. If you get that looper to get 2-3 yards deep into the line of scrimmage, the other thing that this helps with is this is pretty good for scrambling quarterbacks, things like that. It just does a decent job, as you see. I mean, this thing's actually pretty darn good. Now I'm going to show you the pass protection that I've been using here. I've been using the base pass protection, which is the main pass protection you would see against something like this. Now, if your opponent wants to go to empty, then I'll show that as well here. And what you'll see is empty pass protection. You see that D tackle has a little bit better of a chance to be able to basically glitch through the middle. So this is honestly a very simple send four. What I'll even do at times here is I'll actually just hook curl this guy and I will just send 3. This is more for, long yardage situations, relying on these sheds. The biggest thing is if you're an ultimate team or franchise mode, the abilities you want to put on the defensive line is you want to have at least 3 double or nothings on the defensive line. And then I would suggest probably 3 double or nothings and then you could one of a couple different ones that you could pair with it. You could use 3 double or nothings and 3 instant rebates, 3 double or nothings and 3 buy one get ones. Those are 2 things that we've kind of seen that appear to help with sheds this year, at least where the game's at right now. So anyway, this is just one of my favorite. If I ever want to go to something that's like just very bend but don't break style, this one right here is what I ultimately go to. Now, what you can also do here is you could use strong safety zone blitz in a little bit of a different way. So the different way that you could use this defense is you could individually move this guy over here like this. Now, the reason you might want to do this is kind of a slight difference, right, in how the defense is going to work. And the guy normally will still loop. For whatever reason, he didn't right there. But normally he will still loop. Let me see if I can actually get him to do that properly. And I'll show you why this is a good little mix-in. So the reason why this is a good little mix-in is because this kind of opens the door for different types of pressure, and it's just not working like I want it to, but that's okay. I'll show you the B gap pressure variation of this though. So situationally, what we could do is we could actually just blitz this guy and walk him over like this, put this safety in the middle third, put this guy in a hook or whatever we want to do, and then we can hook for our user. But what happens here is you kind of get the same thing, but now it's a B gap loop. So it's just a little bit different. As you can see, just a little bit different. The pass protection will be different. Depends on obviously what they're doing to try to block it. But if you ever wanted to just mix something up, and you can do this out of literally any play. Like you just walk this guy over just like this, blitz him, and then you're just going to hover down here. And that can just slightly change the blocking a little bit. It's a B gap loop as opposed to an A gap loop. There's pros and cons to each. Obviously, our core loop being this A gap loop right here. But ultimately, you can kind of do for what you want. But in general, as you see, if I hover over there with my user, I feel like that A gap loop definitely makes it a little bit worse. So just fun fact there. But what you can also do is this right here. And I just think this is the best. I just think this is by far and away like a really, really good A gap loop. Even if the center does pick him up right there, like it does a great job of just putting the offense on a timer, which is ultimately what we're trying to do. Defensively, just get enough pressure and then play really, really good coverage behind it. And we're also in a defense that does not lend itself to giving up the big play. More than likely, you're gonna play bend but don't break with this, and a lot of times, you're just gonna have a lot of success. I just think this is one of the best ways to play defense in the game right now. In a game where there's not like a clear top level blitz, especially if they're willing to block their running back, right? There's just not a great top level blitz. This is something that I think makes a lot of sense because of how good it is for your switch stick. You can obviously switch stick onto basically everything on the field.